utopia, take away the economy from those who rigged it. As I see it, class warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. It's worth it. How to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. And of course, good morning to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana. Good morning to every nook and cranny receiving our 100,000 watt transmitters signal in those boxes known as FM radio. Good morning to the rest of the world who listens to us via the magic of the newest technologies in the form of the internet. Well, you know, the internet isn't all that new. It came from ARPANET, developed by whom again? El gobierno, the government, you know. So think about all those people that are making billions of dollars off of the internet who now don't want to pay taxes, who constantly claim things like, we don't want the government involved. Well, folks, our government is we, the people of the United States. We, the people of the United States, created the space program. We, the people of the United States, created all these great educational centers, universities, etc. We, the people, created it. We, the people, use the intellect, the collective intellect of all Americans to build and build. And remember that under that, many have created and developed so much under your tutelage, under what you've created. A few have made billions. But we'll talk about that later. Before we get any further, it is time for us to get to the geniuses in the studios that, even under the rainstorm that we're having right now, continues to make it possible for you to hear what we're going to talk about. Buenos dias! Good morning, geniuses.
Well, the tin cans and string are a bit wet this morning, but still working, so we're good. Good morning, bro.
Good morning. How you doing, Senor Jacques?
I am upright, so I guess I'll be okay.
Oh, it's Howard talking right now. Still, yeah. Well, you know, Howard. No, well, I tell you what happens is it's we had a terrible night last night. The power kept on going on and off, so I've probably slept 2 hours, right? It kept on going on and off, and the alarm, because every time the power goes off and come back on, the alarm get into a state that keeps ringing. So I have to get up and reset, and oh, it was a terrible night. I think my watch says I got 2 hours of sleep.
Well, that's probably going to make it a very interesting show. A fatigued host here. So you can't tell the difference between Jack and I's voice. Jack has this real husky, good voice on the radio, and mine is kind of weak.
You know you know what? I don't think it's a right thing for you. You have a radio voice and a TV face. You know that, man? You have a radio voice and a TV face. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, we're going to let Jack talk. He's got a full page of wisdom here.
All right.
So, Jack, it is wisdom time.
All right. Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
I'm fine, my brother. Talk to me.
Okay. Higher taxes for the working classes. Part of Project 2025's plan to socialize tax cuts for the morbidly rich. You pay more, they get more. When does it stop? When the people realize they are being economically enslaved when consumption, consumerism, and materialism are recognized as instruments of our enslavement. I say Americans are too comfortable with their toys and stuff to stand united in revulsion against what the corporate fascists are doing to America and the world. They have divided the people along party lines, racial lines, economic class, and gender to keep us fighting with each other, while the rich oligarchs steal the workers' wealth and use war for profit. This must stop. Stop spending your money. Start saving your money. This This is your second most powerful thing you can do besides your vote to change the direction these politicians and their rich oligarchs are driving us to.
Those rats.
Those rats.
Those rats, I tell you. I love that. And good morning. Bruce Pollard is the first person in the chat this morning. Great to have you in the chat listening, my brother. Great to have you here. Now, Jack, I could not agree with you more. And in fact, the Project 2025, you know what bugs me? And I think I started a program that way. How much we have all done collectively as a society, and I'm talking about absolutely everybody that really forms a part of this society. How much you have done to really make us who we are. And I'm not talking about just these guys who run corporations, because some of the people that have done the least are those guys, right? And when I say that, I don't say that out of malice or anything of that nature. These are the people that have done the most in this society, are the ones who have benefited economically the least from this society. We became a juggernaut. The country has become a juggernaut on the backs of all of you who are listening to me right now, whether you realize it or not. Collectively, not singularly, collectively, our economic prowess comes from what we all do. And for anyone to believe that somehow the billionaires in this society are the ones who directed that traffic, they are absolutely wrong. What the billionaires have done is use the technique, the system laid out, the economic system as laid out, because that's what they work towards. That's why they have been able to accumulate what they had. So it's a hard thing to get across. And there's a piece that I did on my 3 o'clock show that I want to play. I have a 13-minute piece that I want to play on Project 2025. But before I get to that piece, there was one person in our chat a few days ago that really got me into a rant that I want to play now. I kind of cleaned it up for I cleaned it up for KPFT. You know, some of the things that we can say at 3 o'clock, we can't say at 6 in the morning. So I cleaned it up and I prepared it. So let me go ahead and play that, and then we'll take it on the other side. Brian, I want to do this respectfully, but I want to show how the Powell memo, how the indoctrination in America from birth has created an enslaved mind. Listen to this. Brian says, and I want you guys to walk this street with me. It's the wealthy who put their capital and future at risk. I once told you that this economic system doesn't care about humanity. It only cares about capital. But worse, it has the humans that are the slaves within the system, the workers. It makes them also look at capital as having more importance. How do I know that? Because listen to Brian. I want to deconstruct that. It's the wealthy who put their capital and future at risk. And then he says, workers just have to go get a job. Let's deconstruct this. What is your life worth? Is it worth money? Is it worth anything? Because the guys who build the skyscrapers in downtown Houston, in downtown New York, in downtown California, they risk their lives when they're on those scaffolds, when they're on those things building. They're risking their lives for a building they likely cannot go into. They're risking their lives for a skyscraper they probably can't go into. They're breathing in fumes that will get them sick decades later, that the rich person isn't going to want to pay for, even though they got it on the job. I repeat, the enslaved mind, the enslaved mindset is such inculcated within our psyche that we, those that will never be able to get capital because capital breeds capital, we are there defending those people who abuse our work, our worth, our intellect. You put a rich person who bought an island and isolate that island. That island can grow food, etc. You put the farmer who is the worker and the rich person on the island, you can't get anything out of there from the rich person. The person who can survive is the farmer. Yet we have Brian within his mind thinking that the worker just has to find a job, as if the work itself isn't intrinsically a risk as well. You know, it boggles the mind that we continue to bestow upon the wealthy unearned value. These people go to school, they get a business degree, and they go work for a Wall Street firm where they trade paper, stocks. They didn't create anything. They didn't have the intellect to create anything of value. Yet you revere them. You may be out there sweeping floors. You may be out there doing welding. You may be out there doing all these things while that person just went to business school, started trading stocks, and owns you. Because when they decide that metal corporation no longer produces what it is, they break it up into pieces and sell it as pieces of paper. They don't even know what it looks like on the inside, but they sell you like a slave, and you continue to support policies where you give these guys, you know, back in Panama now, we have a lot of these memes on things where they put you have a mind, you have your head, and within that head, they put a chain. The enslaved mind is worse than enslaved bodies. It's the same thing that pastors know, right? Pastors know something very important. When you go to the church the first time, I'm talking these evangelical churches, they don't ask you for anything. They don't ask you for money. They shower you with stuff, and they start to work on your mind. And as they work on your mind, they teach you about tithing, and they teach you about all these things that Jesus tells you should be doing within for the church. I'm not talking about the good deeds now, doing within the church. And then by the end, they don't care that you don't give an offering every Sunday, because by the end, they know that they will have your mind. And if they have your mind, right, what it says is that they have everything that you own. And again, I can't force you to understand, Brother Brian H. So when you say, stop telling me I am wrong, you're absolutely wrong. And I've explained why you're wrong. Whenever you go to work, you're risking your body. Whenever that person risks capital, if you think risking capital is more important than risking the body, that means you care more about capital than humanity. I've explained it. If you don't understand that, my brother, if you don't understand that, it's not I trade my effort and time for currency. You see again? That's an enslaved mind. I trade my time and currency. It's not an even swap. It's not an even swap. As you continue to think that, then that is the reason why society is hard to change, because we have to change people one person at a time to remove that chain from the mind. To remove that chain from the mind. The number is 713-526-5738. Again, the number is 713-526-5738. We have Bruce Pollard in the chat, Eric Hayes in the chat, Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain in the chat. So we have Kingwood, Atascocita, and Barcelona, Spain well represented in the chat. Eric Hayes says, yes, jobs are to be found. The trader that gets good education uses stock wealth to what? Pay off their loans, etc. Progressive thought is give education paid by taxpayer. I don't know where you came up with that statement. That's an incoherent statement, my dear brother. No. First of all, yes, that person got an education. That person who welds got an education as well. He got an education on how to weld, and he creates structures with his welding, with his access to that kind of work. But you know what? That is what you were taught to believe, that somehow that guy who's in an office shuffling paper has more value than that person who is welding the beams that hold up the bridge that you're going to go over every single day. If you called and got dropped, please call back, my friend. Now, so I want you guys to really think about worth. I always talk about your intrinsic worth. From birth, we have been brainwashed into thinking that our worth is less than those that we are designed to perceive as having more value. Yet, when you look at the reality of survival, what is required for one to survive, you would notice rather quickly that the persons that we give the least worth to in America are the people we most depend on for our own survival. And if you doubt that, I want one to remember the pandemic. Our survival depended on those workers we called essential workers. They were the ones who made our society function. Everybody else was able to stay home for an extended period of time as the essential workers went to work. And these are the people that didn't receive the massive pays, sans doctors and nurses, of course, another group of very essential workers. But we understood in the pandemic the folks that really allowed us to survive when so many others were able to stay home. Johnny, come on in. Line one, folks, the telephone number is 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Johnny, speak to me, my dear brother.
And you score an 11 right there for what you just said. And let me dovetail something with Brother Magic Jack. Here's an example, another example of the goodies that he was referring to. Nancy Pelosi, because she is in a state of denial, that is part of it. That she does not want to give up her $10,000 freezer and her expensive chocolates and her foreign imported sweater that she has tied around her front neck. That's what she does not want to give up. That's part of it. But the other part that has equal weight in her mind is the fact that she's in a state of denial about her mortality. That's why she would not give up her position in Congress. She stepped down from her authority leadership, but she's still in Congress. It's human nature. For example, I have a birthday coming up, and on my driver's license, I have a motorcycle endorsement. I haven't driven my motorcycle since I don't know when because of my carpal tunnel kicks in, so I can't safely operate that thing. But when I renew my license, I'm going to pay that extra amount of money to keep the CM instead of just the C. Why? Because I, too, on some level, operate with this denial of my mortality, of younger years. People, lots of guys in their 40s and 50s, they buy a sports car, or they don't want to give up their motorcycle. We're all human. We're all time travelers, left and right, independent. We're all time travelers. And one last note. Let me warn you guys. I was supposed to get my renewal notice in the mail for my driver's license, and it didn't come. And I think that's on purpose because they know that if they get enough libs who can't show a valid current driver's license, guess what? You don't get to vote 3 months from now. So check your driver license expiration date, guys, like I did just now in order to make my point about Nancy Pelosi. Thank you guys for doing that because I was days away from not being able to have a valid driver's license. It's always something, ain't it? It never stops. And we got to be pit bulls too. They're pit bulls. They don't let go. We don't let go.
Thank you very much, Johnny. You're absolutely right. We never let go. The fight always continues for good. The fight must always continue for good. Thank you, brother. Go ahead, Johnny. Go ahead.
You just reminded me one more thing. Yesterday, when I was saying that I feel sorry for Hey Joe, where you going with that rhetorical gun in your hand, that I said he was drowning in his own hate, I feel sorry for him. One important thing I forgot to put down there, an image, is that he's drowning in water, he's treading water, and we throw out the rhetorical, what's that called, life vest or whatever, the round circle that floats. What do you call it?
Yeah. The ring. Right.
Knowledge, information, and stuff, and he refuses to grab onto it because he'd rather thread water instead of saving his ass. So there's that.
Thank you, Johnny. Let me tell you, folks. We have to when I talk about the enslaved mind, right? It's not. I don't intend. I don't want folks to take that as an insult. I don't want folks to take that as a talk down to. I want folks to take that as an observation. I had an enslaved mind in many ways. And it wasn't until I went to a seminar given by Dr. Professor, economics professor Richard Wolff, when I opened my eyes to what our economic system really was and how it actually functions. I'm talking about mechanically function, not the esoteric stuff you hear about it in propaganda on CNBC or anything like that. When I understood the callousness of it, and then after working with Dr. Wolf, etc., and going into several meetings where we had progressives and conservatives and moderate, and just listening to the thought process. When you go into one of these meetings with folks from the Chamber of Commerce, etc., for every law that's passed or everything that's done, the first question that is ever asked is, how does that affect business? How does that affect business? It's never, the first question is never, how does that affect humanity? How does that affect the quality of the lives of our citizens? How does that affect these things? We never hear that as the first comment. When we know our economic system should be working at the behest of the collective, of us all, not created to survive without us. But what we do here is we always ask from government, our current government by the corporation, we always ask, how is this going to affect the corporations first? We have to educate ourselves. We have to understand that we are already empowered to make a system that supports us all. Donald, come on in. Line two, folks, the telephone number is 713-526-5738. All lines are empty except for Brother Donald, who will say his piece right now. My brother Donald, talk to me.
Good morning, Alberto. How are you today?
I am doing fine, especially since I'm hearing your voice now, my brother.
Yeah, I apologize about yesterday. Youth was not on my side, nor was my mic set up. I was going to play dueling banjos for you, and that's who JP was going to duel with, so you could hear that ringing, and then I was going to say a few other comments. But, yes, as you age, your joints do not work as good as they used to, and fluid. And people, he who has the goal makes the rules is the problem. We're supposed to be in a democracy, but we're in a republic. But we do not have people representing us. When they started moving our retirement age up and up and up and up, that destroyed our lifestyle. And now they're starting to, I'd said up before, they're starting to tweak out and they're starting to drop out, and they're not that old. If they want you to work till you're 75, these guys are up there glitzing out at their age, and they've never done a hard day's work in their life. You cannot expect a person who does physical labor to work past about 65 at a breakneck pace. It's physically impossible.
I agree with you 100%. And I think that is what, that is what, when this person that was in my chat in the 3 o'clock show, I think that is the reason what kind of really took a nerve, right? When I know these guys don't have a you know what to do, you know what in. I can't say it on air at 6 in the morning, but still the ones that they defend are these plutocrats who are out there, and as you just said, Donald, don't do a day's work of physical labor. They're in an office, they want the coffee, they call the secretary to bring them a cup of coffee. They want their car fixed, they get a masseuse to fix the car. I mean, you have a lifestyle of people that produce nothing, who we've learned to revere, which we shouldn't. And what I'm trying to do with our shows is for us to revere us. I want us to revere the hard worker that Donald is, Donald, you get up every morning and you go to work and you created something tangible for society. I want to revere Brother Johnny. I want to revere even my brother that is in the chat right now, Eric Hayes, who's always protecting, not realizing his own value as he protects the value of these plutocrats or this economic system that has also screwed many like him. But still intrinsic within our mindset, we continue to protect those who do the least. Continue, Donald.
Yeah, they've gotten rid of the retirements. They've gotten rid of everything, and they've given it all to themselves. They find that screwing other people is looked up to in America.
You know, when you say, right, hey, Patrick, I want to talk about retirement a bit. I want to talk a little bit about retirement. There was a time when corporations were actually, they had a social construct with their employees. And we didn't have the disparity between the leaders of these companies and the average worker. And they had things called defined benefits and they had things called retirements. But as the people who push paper got deeper into the run-ins of corporations, etc., they thought they could get very smart with you. And they were like, we don't want to have the responsibility of retirement anymore, and I'm look for I would be with companies not having retirements anymore and not controlling that if we just give it to the government for something called basic income and retirement after you've worked successfully. I don't mind that. I would love to unload that from from the corporations as long as we make sure the corporations pay the taxes that everybody can have a good retirement because we are the ones who make them happen. But anyway, they changed these things from standard retirement to 401ks and people started to see, oh, we've matched your 401k and all of that. And the money managers at Wall Street saw it as a double-edged winning sword because it meant they got more money to control. So they'll make a piece of the action on your 401k. The company gets away from having to pay you retirement because now it is the money. You have to save your own money for retirement when you can't work anymore. And the 401k can really, for the average worker, never match what, retirements used to be. And we take it. We allow these trickery. Remember, anything the corporation does today, it's not for your benefit. It's for their benefit. So when they change retirements from retirements to 401ks, that was never to benefit you. That was to benefit the corporations. You have to remember what the new God of capitalism said. That is El Señor. Now that the name slips me, but I'll remember it as I speak. But he said that the corporation has no social responsibility. They only have a responsibility to the shareholder and the executives. That's what he said in 1972, I think it was. And they've been off the rails since. They've been off the rails since. Anyway, Donald, anything else before I go to Patrick?
No, that's the fiduciary duty to the stockholder and the executive. And the 401k, you can have enough to retire, but the way they play with the market, then they devalue it because they're making their profits by buying and selling. And then all of a sudden your 401k is taking a big old hit, whereas then before it was up to the corporation to do the money and you still got it guaranteed. Now it's not guaranteed. So, no, that's all I got to say. But have a great one. Thank you, Barto.
Thank you, brother. You have a great day. All right, come on in, dear Patrick. Come on in.
Good morning. Hey, in the 80s when Reagan was elected, there was a joke that went around, and the joke said, what starts with an F and ends with a K means that you're screwed. 401k.
Yes, exactly. I know. I got it. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. Brother Donald just said, oh, you can put enough money into a 401k and retire from it. Yeah, for a lot of people, or for some people, that is true. But I know people that the amount that they could actually put into a 401k, there's no way they could live off of that for retirement, even when added to their Social Security. So we have to be careful on the way we say that. Before you continue, Patrick, I want to welcome Billy Allison Irwin, who says good morning to us all, as well as Swear XZ, who says, hey, NVC28, as well as Billy Allison Irwin. Thank you guys for being here in the chat. Love having you here. Continue, please, Patrick.
Well, not only is that 401k not enough, but there's a commission earned on it. So not only did you lose your guaranteed retirement, but now every transaction that's made on your behalf, you're paying a commission.
Exactly. That's what I talk about when I spoke about, remember everything that they do for you, it's a benefit for them. And in this case, it's a benefit for both Wall Street, who runs your 401k program, as well as the corporations who no longer has the responsibility of setting away funds to keep its retirees funded in their retirement. So two people win as you lose. Wall Street wins, the corporation wins, and you lose. It's always out of the pocket of the middle class and the working class. Continue, my brother.
I wanted to talk about your first rant this morning, which I thought was great. All I need is a job, right? So I've never worked less than 50 hours a week, and for the past 10 years, I've worked amongst people that fight to work an additional 10, not because they want it, but because it's not enough. Mm-hmm. And I work in a branch of construction. What's interesting in construction right now is the CDC says that they're being treated so poorly and have such a stressful life that they have what they're considering a epidemic of suicide. These are men that go to work and work as hard as they possibly can. They get squeezed as much as they can, and they take their life because they don't think that there's anything better. And there probably isn't. So to say that all you need is a job is a joke. My father was educated in several fields, and he was licensed as an electrician, a plumber, and an air conditioner. There's a better way of saying that, but he owned his own business. My father worked as an installer in his own company until he was 74. And when he could no longer do it, he went to substitute teaching until he was 82. My dad's 95, and he's about to be put into a Medicaid bed because he's out of money. My father worked every moment he could in his life. I remember sitting on the front lawn in front of my house, waiting for him to come home on his birthday, and I had to go to bed. My mom sent me to bed because he didn't make it home in time.
Wow.
To say that all we need is a job is probably one of the most callous things you could say. And the job that we had 40 years ago paid more against the cost of living than it does now. And we've been shifting money towards the age of more and more because 20 or 30 years ago, you could scratch together a little bit of money to place a bet on Wall Street. The kids now, they don't even have that. You can't go to McDonald's and find money to invest. That's a joke. And as soon as I say McDonald's, someone's going to say, okay, we'll get a trade. It's the same with a trade. If I have an air conditioner that goes down or something, I'm behind for 6 months.
You got that right.
I would look paycheck with a 6-digit income. I have to always look to see what can I do without. That's living paycheck to paycheck for me.
Brother, let me tell you, and the thing about it, the reason we're not just complaining here. The idea is I want people to realize they're already empowered to vote the right people in so that we get this economic system straight. I got a 13-minute piece I got to play, so I want to go ahead and do it now, Patrick. But thank you very much for, of course, the good information that you always bring to the fold. So let me get this stuff started, and thank you for calling in, my brother.
Have a great day.
You too. All right, folks, I want you to listen to this on Project 2025. Why we're so strong on why things must go a certain way is that Project 2025 just puts all that we talk about on steroids. Check it out. Here we go. It turns out that Project 2025 is nothing more than furthering the wealth transfer engine, putting it on steroids. I mean, we have a trickle-down economy right now that was instituted forcefully by Reagan. And even as many as Clinton, even as Obama tried to mitigate it, slow it down, it continued. And every time a Republican gets in, they increase it. Well, MAGA wants to codify it via Project 2025. And here is what 2025 is going to mean to the average middle class, to the average working class American. When we talk about Project 2025 that MAGA is supporting, and all those rural MAGAs, all those working class MAGA, all those unionized MAGA, all of them that are working for it, fail to understand. You are not screwing the left. You are not giving it to the libs. You're not sticking it to the libs. You're mostly sticking it to yourself. Check this out and we'll take it on the other side.
Project 2025, the 920-page policy manifesto by the conservative group, the Heritage Foundation, highlights a wish list of economic and financial plans under a potential Trump second term. While Trump hasn't said he doesn't know anything about Project 2025, he says he doesn't know anything about it. We did a segment recently with NBC's Vaughn Hilliard showing how connected to it he actually is, even if he denies it. Proposals include higher taxes on lower income Americans, increased student loan payments, and major cuts to Medicaid. Steve Ratner has made his way to the Southwest Wall with charts on those financial implications of Project 2025. And Steve, your first chart shows there would be higher taxes on the less well-off. Tell us about it.
Sure, Mika. Look, taxes are obviously perhaps issue number one on the minds of many Americans, and Project 25 is very clear about what it wants to do. It essentially wants to restructure our tax system into only two tax brackets, 15% for those earning less than the Social Security maximum, which is, I think, about $166,000 a year, and 30% for those earning above. But that would radically change how much different Americans pay. It would actually increase the amount that people making less than $150,000, less than that cutoff, pay $1,000, $2,000, $2,500. They would pay more taxes, but people above the wealthy would pay dramatically less taxes. If you earn $400,000 a year, you would get a tax cut of about $14,000. So an extraordinary shift in the tax burden away from the wealthy and toward the less wealthy. This is an even more extreme version of what Trump did in his tax bill, the TCJA, Tax Cut and Jobs Act, back in 2017 or so. And you can see here the impact of that was similarly regressive in that people at the bottom got a much smaller percentage increase in their tax cut, and the people at the top got a much larger tax cut. 85% of this tax bill went to people making more than $75,000 or to business. And so essentially what this proposal would do is take this and put it on steroids.
So, Steve, the Biden administration's attempts to actually lessen the student loan burden really enraged Republicans. In fact, whenever you would bring up January the 6th, seems that a lot of Republicans go, yeah, well, look what Joe Biden did with student loans. And they were serious. Like, that's sad, but they were serious. This Project 2025 thing actually is going to increase the burden on people with student loans, right?
Yeah. So Joe Biden did make a bunch of proposals. Some of them got litigated and overturned, but then he found other ways, which I'm going to talk about in a second, to address the student loan burden. But what Project 2025 would do essentially would be to eliminate all of what the Biden administration did to cut the burden of student loans. And you can see here, this is broken down by education and all the way from some college but no degree to master's program. And so in terms of the monthly student loan payments, for the people at the bottom, their monthly average student payments would go from $78 to $308. So a huge increase for those with very little college, people who don't probably have great jobs, and for whom this is a big burden. And then smaller increases, but still substantial, all the way up to people who have master's degrees. So completely wiping out everything the Biden administration has done for the last 3.5 years. But let me show you one impact of what the Biden administration has done. We all know that student loan debt has been a huge problem, and it's gone up and up and up. It's gone up and up per student. And this is even inflation adjusted, and it went up under Trump. But for the first time since at least 2007, student loan debt per borrower has actually gone down for three straight years. Still really high, but you can actually see tangible progress made under the Biden administration in reducing that student loan burden.
Yeah, and so we're talking about higher student loans. We're talking about higher taxes for working class Americans, and finally, let's talk about the impact that it's going to have to Medicaid. You know, there used to be this idea, Medicaid, that just goes to poor people living in urban areas. And what a lot of Americans have figured out since Medicaid cuts have come, no, that's money that actually funds rural hospitals. That's money that funds nursing homes. That's money that funds a lot of medical care, a lot of medical treatment for Americans of all demographics in all parts of America. And Donald Trump, if he really does embrace 2025, like he said in the past, he's going to support more massive cuts to Medicare.
Yeah, Joe, you're right.
And Medicaid.
You're right, Joe. Medicaid, I think there's something like 90 million people on Medicaid in America, 38 million children. So you're right. It is not just some urban program for a few poor people. And what Project 2025 wants to do is put limits on how long you can stay on Medicaid, effectively kick people off Medicaid, put in work requirements, put in a whole number of restrictions that would dramatically change the number of people who are on Medicaid. So this map shows you by color coding, the darker colors being the worst hit places, what share of enrollees could lose their Medicaid. So in Virginia, in Wisconsin, in Idaho, you could be talking about 40 to 50% of people being kicked off of Medicaid. In every state, pretty much, you can see that it's anywhere from 10% up to 40% all the way across the country. It would be a massive change in a program that, as you said, is absolutely central to our healthcare system and to the lives of so many people who can't afford their own healthcare. But it's also a question politically of whether this is really a great idea for the Republicans to embrace, because Medicaid is actually extraordinarily popular. Not surprisingly, it's supported by 90% of Democrats versus only 8 who have an unfavorable view of it. But even among Republicans, 65% of Republicans think favorably about Medicaid, and only 32% think unfavorably about Medicaid. So it's terrible policy. It also may be terrible politics for the Republicans to embrace proposals like this.
And it's particularly terrible if you look at the map in states like Virginia, Wisconsin, and obviously important states for this election.
We spend a lot of, and what's going to be important going forward, and this is a marching orders for everybody here. The mainstream media are going to be concentrating on all the stupidity that Trump is going to do. You know, that childlike behavior by saying, look at Kamala's hair. Look at how Kamala laughs. Look at how Kamala sits. Oh, Kamala went out with Willie Brown a few years ago. Oh, Kamala, that's what they're going to be pushing. Oh, look at Kamala locked up a whole lot of black men, not realizing that if Kamala locked up a whole lot of black men, that may be something that gives her the vote from quite a few races, right? But anyhow, they're going to be talking about all those kinds of things to deflect. And what Kamala has to do is what she did in that speech that she just gave in Wisconsin. In a 2-minute answer, 15 minutes to call out the lie. 15 seconds to call out the lie, another 15 seconds to correct the record, and you use 90 seconds to tell you how you're going to change the lives of American citizens. And if Kamala does that, and if all of you out there, when you have the Erics and the Brother Lees and the CSAC coming with the ill or misinformation and lies that they have allowed themselves to accept from the right-wing lying machines, you will be able to use the wording that, let's say, Eric uses. You will be able to use Eric's words to gain your credibility as you tell truth to the American people. It works. How do I know? It does. These videos that I do, whenever I challenge a MAGA person and I turned it into a video and I put it out there, you would not imagine the amount of messages that I get that says, oh, wow, I've been hearing that on Fox News thank you. Thank you. And that's what it's all about. Remember, progressives are the side that are doing good work to help people. Remember, progressives are the ones with the policies that assist and give people equal access to success. And remember, the other policies are only about conserving that which is not worth conserving because it harms too many. Let's all remember that. Let's all remember that. And if we go out there and do that job, when Kamala says we have all that work to do, that is the absolute fact. We have a lot of work to do because there's a lot of misinformation to dispel. And I'm not talking about being in a hurry to dispel information from the Erics of the world. Eric's my friend. Eric is completely misled. Eric is completely off base. Eric is completely wrong. But if I were to use that as a reason to hate, I would have fallen into the trap set by the right, which wants dissension. I won't go there. I will continue using the lies of the right to bring more people into the fold. And it is something that one can do. I hear you, Paul. I know what you're saying, Paul. If you allow the sick, if you allow those who have been affected mentally by externalities, if you allow that to change who you are, then they win. If you bring it in and you continue moving forward and you'll use their ill-informed selves to inform others, you win. And that's what we are going to do in November. We are going to win in that landslide I've been telling you all about. Because we have the time. We have the time to go out there and prove, not just with the numbers, but with our way of being, what needs to be done. Anyway, folks, 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. 713-526-5738. And remember, folks, you are already empowered. It's about not being fearful, but using the power that America still affords you. We are still a democracy if we choose to behave like a democracy. Sharkula, hairstylist, is in the house. Welcome, my sister. Also, Alizarian Dreams is in the house. She says, good morning, y'all. God, our chat is jamming this morning. A lot of folks in the chat and on Twitter, etc. Brian, my dear brother Brian, is in the house. Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Yeah, good morning. Everybody, if you can hear me, support the station by a donation of some type. Doesn't have to be a lot, but it should be some. Okay, what I've noticed since Obama is the Democratic Party selects a person to run for president. The Republican Party votes for it. That's the big difference between the two parties right now. If I was a Biden supporter, I would be pretty angry that he was forced out. That's it.
Okay, well, don't leave yet, Brian, because I want to remind you of something. The fact that you said he was forced out automatically says that you believe he was voted in, which I think go against your initial comment. But that's okay. I don't agree with that. but I can see your point to some extent because Bernie, my good old Bernie, for whom I was a delegate, he was froze out. But it wasn't that they did it. What it was is that they ganged up on him and they created the rules to make it difficult for him. Bernie's a big boy, and Bernie understands politics, and he didn't let that stop him from being Bernie. So, look, there is some validity to what you said, but it's not at all limited to the Democratic Party. It's a function of what parties do. Trump froze out anybody from really of consequence from running against him, and anyone who continued to run, as Nikki Haley realized, would have been persona non grata. But thank you for your commentary as usual, Brian. And thank you for how you always start by encouraging people to give to the station. You're a good man. Thank you, brother. Peace. Let's go to Lynette.
Yeah, bye.
Lynette, come on in.
I just wanted to say thank you, Howard. Thank you, Jack, and Alberto. That piece on Project 25 was great. 2025 was great because the opportunity zones is also one of those things that came in, I believe, under Trump. That was like on steroids, and what it did is pretty much all of the buying up of the community. So now people can't afford to buy houses. But I just want to say thank you for including economics in your conversation. Thank you for the work that you all do every single day because it's very important. So keep doing it. Just thank you. So have a great day.
I appreciate you, Lynette. You're wonderful. You have a wonderful rest of your day. All right, let's jump to Brother Harry. Come on in, my dear brother from another mother. How you doing this morning, sir?
Dear brother from another mother, Roberto Willis. Good morning, Howard. Good morning, Jack. Loved your piece on Project 2025. Arnie talked about it that preceded your show, so she's always talking about it. That's why, folks, it's important to listen to KPFT because you get the truth when you listen to The Attitude with Arnie Arneson, when you listen to Brother Roberto Willis, when you listen to Economic Update, Dr. Richard Wolff. You get the truth and insight, and I just wish the MAGA people would not just listen to the right-wing side.
Harry, I appreciate you for saying what you're saying right now, and forgive me, but I have two other calls, and we only have 3 minutes, and I want to give everybody a chance to talk. Thank you, brother. You have a great day.
I'll talk some more tomorrow.
Thank you. Let's go to Raymond. Thank you, brother. Let's go to Raymond. Raymond, you are going to be hot in a minute. You're on, Raymond.
Hello, Alberto. Appreciate you taking my call. I wanted to ask actually for your opinion on something. I've been listening to most of the show today talking about what we can do to help people save for retirement. I really enjoyed Patrick and his story about his father. I worked construction my whole life. I still do. And so I can appreciate that. But my point that I'd like for you to help make is that personal responsibility is very important for the individual. And I think that people should think about their retirement and plan accordingly to some extent. And I know everyone's got different abilities to do that. So my question is, to what extent do you feel like personal responsibility is important towards preparing for retirement? I
get your point. And versus the government, etc. Right. Let me tell you one thing, Raymond. I got to go, but here's the deal. I wish we taught that in school, but we don't teach a lot of stuff in school, and then we expect people to know stuff. Personal responsibility for those who have the ability and those who were reared correctly. I mean, you likely, but there's so many that weren't. So we have a lot to talk about what you're just talking about on personal. Let's talk about that tomorrow if you're listening, and we'll take it from there. I got to get to Joni, and because we got only a minute left. So thank you very much, Raymond, for your call. Let's talk about that tomorrow. Joni, come on in.
Egberto. So just wanted to two little points. So addressing whether or not the Republicans provide choice. My mom, before she passed away in 2020, she said, why don't we get a choice? She's a Republican voter, and she said, I don't know why we don't get a choice. So there was no choice in 2020. So it didn't seem to be, I don't remember any primaries going on in 2020 for the Republicans. Number one. Number two, it just makes my heart warm to see how interested and concerned the right is about whether or not Democratic voters are being disenfranchised. That's just it's just heartwarming.
Okay,
But anyway,
look.
that's all I have to say.
Thank you so kindly, Joni. Thank you so kindly. Look, love all you callers today. My God, that was great. And Raymond, I want to explore what you spoke about again, because what you said was so important for us to discuss. So let's talk about that tomorrow. If you're listening, call in early so that we can put some meat into what you were speaking about. Callers and the chatters on the chat, thank you for that vivid conversation that we're having there. And I want to pass it to the studio now.
Oh, nothing from me. Very interesting show today. And Jack has something to say.
More taxes, less in your pocket.
Amen.
That's true. I don't know if there could
Amen.
be any less in my pocket as it is.
Let me tell you, folks. Here's the bottom line, right? You have the power, but right now they are messing with your mind. They're having you. When I say they, all of this, there are strings being pulled. Powell memo is in full effect. The Project 2025 is an appendage to the Powell memo, and I've spoken about the Powell memo a lot. If you don't know what it is, just scan for Powell memo or Powell manifesto. That is what we're under right now. But you are empowered, but you have to listen to the right information, and you have to figure it out within your own logic. And then you will make the right choices. So I want to thank everybody that listened today. I want to thank the callers, listeners, the chatters, the messengers. I want to thank those who are going to be listening to this on podcast. I want to thank all of you. Let's keep working together to make a better America. My name is don't forget, you can get the rest of the show, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!